Greetings, viewers. Here we are on a beautiful end of April day. Just to show you all about back getting things done spirit. First of all, it'll be interesting to see when this gets uploaded. But second of all, you remember this thing? Craftsman Mark 16. Well, I've thought long and hard about how I want to do this rebuild project because it obviously needed a new motherboard. And I was going to try and get a 286 board to put in this because that's what it would have had when it was new. Unfortunately, finding one of those in working condition that isn't destroyed by a battery bomb is basically impossible in this day and age, and I was not able to find anything. What I did find that was interesting was this. This is actually a Pine motherboard. This is a Pine, I think this was like a PT 429 or something. Probably nothing all that special. I mean, it's an AMI BIOS and all the other usual stuff. You can see the seller actually gave me a battery. That's nice of them. I think there's a battery in there. If not, it's just a 2032. They're easy to find. This is another VLB board. And the interesting thing about this has an ST Microelectronics branded 486. I've never actually seen one of these from ST Microelectronics. I've seen a bunch of other brands. You know, AMD obviously had theirs. Cyrix, IBM. Trying to think of others. Texas Instruments had some. I think even Harris Semiconductor was still making Intel processors up into the 486 era. But I've never seen one from ST Microelectronics. I'll have to see how that compares to a normal 486. Of course, it says that heatsink is required. So what I have here is a heatsink. Evercool. Merging aesthetics and heat dispersion. It's got a fan on it. You probably don't strictly need a fan for 486 DX266, but I'm going to leave one on there anyway. But first step, I'm going to get this board mounted in that case and get it hooked up. Fortunately, it looks like all of the hookups are labeled, so I will actually know what goes where and what should be plugged in on this. Alright, so here we are now with everything pretty much ready to go. If I lift this up here, you can see the little plastic things are in place. I hate them, but that's the way that this is going to be. Now, there's some problem areas here. Number one is I should have another standoff right there, but I don't. A metal standoff with a screw, but I don't have one. I put the screw here because this is where all the PCI cards are, and that's the place that's going to probably have the most flex on this. It should be fine. I should have another plastic standoff there, but I don't have enough. And there should really be something right here, but there's no standoff area underneath the board there, and I don't have one of the plastic ones that doesn't have the nub, and that's not even going to be tall enough anyway because there's nothing for that to rest on, so I'd have to 3D print something to go there, and maybe I'll do that at some point. Other problem areas, that is going to have to get stuck to something, probably the power supply, because it can't be dangling around like that, it's just going to fall out. I have the heatsink installed. I will be using the fan, but not right now. This is just a test, so it should be fine. It's only a 66 megahertz chip. In fact, a lot of those you don't even need a heatsink, so I don't know why this one needs a heatsink, but it does say heatsink required, and I'm going to take it at face value. I don't have that connector plugged in because that goes to your disk controller. I don't have one of those right now, and I also didn't plug in the turbo switch because the turbo switch is a 3-pin switch, and this only has a 2-pin connector, so I'm going to have to figure out what those pins do and then hook it up, well, accordingly. So I think right now I'm good to go to hook this up. I've got the power connector for the board connected. For those that don't know, on these AT machines, black to black always, there's 2 connectors. It will go in other ways, but if you try that, you'll blow something up, so you probably don't want to do that. But I'm going to give this thing a power test. If I didn't mention it before, this power supply is functional. It wasn't working in the first video for, well, probably a multitude of reasons, but the biggest of which was the fact that somebody had, for whatever reason, set it to 240 volts. It's at 110 now, so it should be okay. I'm going to go ahead and power test this. I was wondering what was making that noise behind me. A couple of ducks. It's kind of an odd thing to see in the city, but here you go. Kind of wondered what they're looking for. Probably a body of water. Was that a male and a female? Okay, got it plugged in, I hope. Let's see what happens with this. No video, no disc controller, no keyboard, no anything. Please don't explode. I have no activity at all. Cool. Well, we're paused on this again, and I'm not thrilled. I'm actually quite peeved, because I don't understand why this is a problem. I just don't. I'm at a loss here, because I don't know if I've got an actual dead power supply, or if I have yet another dead board that was billed as working. I'm getting really freaking tired of this. I think it's the power supply, though, and I'll tell you why. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to flip this on and watch the keyboard lock LEDs. See that? They do nothing. And I would have to believe that if this were going to do, or if the motherboard were getting power, those lock LEDs would come on. So I don't think this motherboard is getting power. The interesting thing about it is that if I fiddle around with the meter, and I don't think there's anything wrong with the meter because it's a nice meter, but if I fiddle around with this meter and these connectors, this one in particular, I am able to get accurate voltage readings. All my 5 volts look good. I don't know what the white wire is. I think it's the -5. That seems to be okay. I don't remember. It's been a while since I tested it. At this point, it's kind of sad. I can remember a furniture store commercial from like a decade ago, but I can't remember what I tested like 10 minutes ago. But anyway, I think that's good. I know that the other connector seems to be okay, except for maybe this 3.3. I think that's 3.3. This orange wire that's on the end. It seems like all of it's fine, but I'm not getting any power, so I don't know if there is still something wrong with that power supply, or what the deal is. I'll see if maybe I can do some further adjustments on that and maybe get this working, but I guess I'm looking for another power supply. Alright, so without a tripod, even though there is one just across the room, this is the best you're going to get, but it should be sufficient to show that this is working. I'm on one of the Molex connectors right now. So here's your 12 volts. It's a little bit low at 11.72, but power supply is mostly unloaded. 5 volts is there as well on that Molex connector. So the power supply is putting out voltage, but I guess it's just not going to the board because the CPU is ice cold, and it shouldn't be. I have no reaction out of that. Obviously there's nothing with that card, and I don't get anything out of the speaker. There's also no LEDs. In fact, just to prove a point, no LEDs. And there should be LEDs because that connector, there's only one way that connector can go into place. So I think that the power supply, or at least the connector that's going to the board, is toasted, and that would make sense because it was right beside where the battery was in the original board that got destroyed. So a new power supply, or a connector, or something. I could probably salvage one off of like a dead Dell power supply because they have the same connector. I just need one of these. I guess that's in my future because I'm at a loss. I don't really know what to say about that. So there's going to be another part to this series of videos. Once again, it's turning into the Pankart Bell PB686 all over again. Stay tuned, I suppose, because there will certainly be another part. I'm going to put that heatsink back on there so it doesn't get lost, of course, but this is going to get set aside, and I don't know how long it's going to be before I get to it. A little bit of a postscript here on this video, because as it turns out, I forgot I had this sitting around. This is a baby AT power supply, model E200P something U. PU is probably right. Look at the chintzy wiring on this compared to the old one. Maybe a little bit hard to tell on camera, but it's at least 2 wire gauges thinner. Oof. And also, probably extraordinarily dangerous because this is switching line voltage, so you don't want to really touch that. So I've just got it powered on right now. So we'll leave it on. I'm going to set that to the side. Apparently this was in a DX33. I don't remember what this came out of. Where it came from, for that matter, but let's see what happens. Oh, look at that. Now, it thinks there's no video, but yeah, there's a light. So we are working. The machine is working just fine. So we do still have some work to do, but proves the point that there is something wrong with that power supply. So I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to deal with that. And that will be for the next part of this video. But at least now we know.